Hey everyone, this is Leland Best with BCBLive. I just wanted to put together a short recording, though it may get a little lengthy, on how we can go about installing and setting up vMix software. We're over at BCBLive right now, and I'm just going to get started by heading over to my software link. And if you follow down into the broadcasting menu item, you can find vMix's free 60-day demo right here on file. So you pick on that, it's going to take you over to the download site. And what you'll find is there is a download for Windows and a download for Macs. We're going to go ahead and download this new version that's available. And I know it's a recent version. It does have NDI support, which is Network Device Interface, so that you can connect to other sources on the internet through a Cat5e or Cat6 cable. And that way you can share sound sources or video sources from other people and other applications. Now that we have the EXE on the screen, you can see it down here in the corner of my browser. If you're using anything like Firefox or WaterFox, that download link is going to be up here as a little downward pointing arrow that you can get to find this file. So all we need to do is go ahead and fire up vMix's 17 version, and we're going to get an install prompt. So we're going to go ahead and allow it to install on our system. There is another aspect to the software that we want to grab, and that is the desktop capture. So this is going to install vMix on our computer. It recommends that we close all the other applications in doing so, though I do have my screen capture app running and my voice mixer running so that I can do this recording. So we're going to accept the agreement, and it's going to locate the files. What's really odd that I found with vMix, even though this is a 64-bit program, it tends to install a majority of the program base in x86, which is specifically geared toward 32-bit programs. And I'm going to hit next. I'm going to create a desktop icon in the process, and I'm going to check my settings to make sure that's where I want to put it. Install. And while I'm watching that, I'm going to go ahead and download the Windows version of the desktop capture program, which you'll see what that's for in just a minute. And once it gets set up here, it's going to go ahead and ask us if we want to launch vMix. So in this case, we're going to go right ahead and do that. Okay, just about done. Now this is vMix version 17.0.0.83. And what you'll discover is the initial interface. The resolution is preset at 720p at 25 frames per second. What we have here is a preview screen and an output screen. It's going to be just a few steps to create a new setup. So I'm going to actually do a new file. It's going to open up as an high definition 720 resolution 25 frames per second setup, which is what you see here. Now I could change that to any of these other settings that I want to use. However, I found this to be a very stable setup, so I'm going to go with the default in this case, and I'm just going to say OK. I have banks 1 and banks 2, so if I were to, let's get that set up so you can actually see what's going on here. So let me add an input device. In order to do that, I'm just going to add a camera. And in order to add a camera, I'm going to need to use something like my Logitech HD Pro webcam C920. I'm going to go with all the defaults here, folks, so you can understand how simple it is to really get set up on vMix. So I'm going to just hit OK. Now you're going to see me, hello, there I am, in high res, high def, on vMix's preview pane. Now, this is not a live broadcast pane. The live broadcast, if I wanted to transition over to the live feed, would be the green headed window. So let's say I want to go ahead and fade over, and people are going to see me fade into the screen. There we go. So just to give you a little better understanding of what needs to be done after that is, let's say we want to add another input. We could add another camera if we'd like. I do have another camera mounted on here, so I'm going to go ahead and hook up my Microsoft LifeCam, which is on the other monitor that I have. I'm going to say OK. Now you're going to see me from the other side. Now my auto zoom is still featured over here, and I really want to turn that off. So let's do this. I'm going to pull up my Microsoft camera feed for this particular camera. This is my settings for my defaults. And I'm going to just go in and I'm going to change the properties of this camera real quick, and I'm going to turn the autofocus off. So hello over there. All right, that way I'm focused in to what's going on here, and I'm going to apply that. So now I'm set up with my LifeCam also. It shouldn't change anymore. Now I have two cameras set up, which is kind of cool, right? That works out. Now let's say I want to add another input. Maybe I want to add, let's add something like a picture. Okay, so I'm going to add an image. And I have some images that have already been loaded in my system because it has default settings that were established from my previous install. Not to concern yourself, but all you'd have to do really is just browse to something to get an image file, and I can kind of give you an idea what I mean by that. If I go over to one of my drives here, I have a setup for my BCBLive, which allows me to input, I have this little please stand by logo, and you'll see that it's already loaded here as please stand by. So I'm just going to hit OK so that this graphic shows up, and that's going to load an image. Now I can pick on that box and it puts that image into the preview pane. So what I normally do is I'll go ahead and I'll establish my initial broadcast with this picture in the window so that it gives me time before my camera goes live that I have that broadcasting out when I stream out. Now, there's a couple of ways you can stream out with vMix, and this is really all we need right now. But if I wanted to, there's a couple other things I could do. I could add a title to my broadcast automatically through vMix. So for those people who aren't familiar with how to load lower thirds, you can create them right here on vMix real quick. So I'm just going to do a simple one. Let's go with something really simple. Let's go with this one. So I'm going to pick that, and it's going to come up with an editor for that particular animation that I have to edit. So in this case, it has a headline. I like to use my username for Twitter when I do something like this so that people know where to find me. And then there's a description. So on the description, I might say BCBLive. Well, let's do it this way. Let's start at the end and say I am the producer I'll be the founder today. I'll be the founder and CEO. How's that sound? I can be both. I can be whatever I want because it's my company, right? Okay. And then I have a background image, which is obviously already established. Now I can change the fonts also if I wanted to. So as far as this is concerned, I can pick on here and change the font to what I normally use as my default font, which is this cool dungeon font that I use all the time. And I can also make it larger. Now, where do I see that? You can see it down here in this window. Now this is what's called an overlay. So I'm going to go ahead and save. That's saved automatically. I don't have to hit an OK button on that. But I'm going to go over here in order to get one of 4 possible overlays. When you get the demo software, you'll have the ability to use up to 4 overlays. Now, if you use the free version from then on out, afterwards, you'll only have access to 1 overlay, which is really all you need right now. So this is the overlay, but as you can see, it's huge, okay? And if it were me over there, this would be me. I'm going to transition my image over to the output window. So now it's me, but you can see that that thing is like huge and I can't do anything. It's in my face. So I'm going to double click that and get to the editor for this, okay? Now in some applications like Blab, you have to mirror the image so that it's reversed, so that when the recordings are generated, it's actually going to flip it over and it's going to generate it in the proper order. But I found with places like FireTalk, you don't need to mirror the image. But what I can do is set up the position, okay? And I can go ahead and zoom this entity so that it's much smaller. And if I wanted to pan it left or right on the screen, or up and down on the screen, I could move it around real quick so that we can get in there and place it where we want it. So now it's close, but it could probably still be a little bit smaller. So let's zoom it down even a little bit more and pan it down a little bit more toward the bottom of the screen. Close the window. Again, there's no OK here. All we got to do is close the window. That looks much better. So now we have this little, here it is, right? This is really difficult to do when you're playing around. It's almost impossible to use your hands in the right form, but you get the idea. So here we have the lower thirds on the left. Now we can change the preview image at any time by simply clicking on one of the windows down below. Now the overlay always shows up in the final output window, so it's not something we have available to us in the preview side so that we can see it ahead of time. But like in this case, I have my preview standby. I can go ahead and be ready to start my show. To turn off my overlay for my lower thirds, I simply click this little box down here where the 1 is. Now, I'm kind of ready to go, okay? Now, if I want to broadcast on FireTalk, because my lower third is set up the way it needs to be. All I need to do is set up my external camera so that I can check this. So let's double check to make sure my output is going to be the external 2 window. Okay. Now if I wanted to check the settings real quick just to see what's available to me, it's back to those defaults that I mentioned earlier, where we have the external camera set up for PAL 25p, which is a standard nomenclature for the type of format that we've established here. 1020 or 1280 720, so that's a pretty standard 720p high def resolution that we're sending out for. There's going to be no audio delay, which is usually not required. And we're not dealing with NDI right now. These NDI outputs are for setting up those things that are going to be across TCP/IP, and that's something, if you really want to get involved with that, you can talk to me outside of this video. So we can just say okay to that. So we have this please stand by thing. Now how do we get out online? How do we do what it is we need to do? So in this case, all I need is what's called a virtual camera to be able to set myself up to go into Blab or to FireTalk, and then I have the ability, this is one thing we didn't cover, is the screen sharing. Okay, so let's add one more input device before we go there. I'm going to head over to the NDI desktop capture. Okay, now this was the zip file that we loaded earlier. Well, I should say we downloaded earlier, but I don't need to do an NDI screen capture, which would mean I could capture a screen from a device that's within my network. I just want to do a local screen capture, and the defaults pop up right away. Now I could use an image of a window that's already open, or a program that's already open, or an image of a Chrome browser window that's already open, or I could take one of the vMix outputs, but all I want to do is display, let's say, my secondary screen, which is display 2. So I have 2 monitors here. If you only have 1 monitor, you're only going to see 1 display. So I'm going to say okay. Now I have another window down here, and you can see this is a desktop capture, and I'll click it in here to the other side. So let me wipe across to the output window, and I'm going to show you my desktop 2. So you're looking at me from my camera on top of monitor 1. If I were to switch cameras, now you're looking at me on my camera that's over top monitor 2. This is just an image. This is a desktop capture. So, and then of course this again is our lower thirds overlay. So what I want to do, if say I'm broadcasting, right now I'm broadcasting out. Well, I'm not, because I don't have my external cameras on, I don't have my stream on, and I'm not running multi-quarter, which is something way out there for the professionals. We don't need to deal with that right now. That's something we can ignore. If I wanted to show what's on my replay monitor, my output monitor, on one of my screens, for instance, I have my desktop screen 2 over here on the left. Up here you see full screen. I'm going to show you, and I did this in a Blab today, I'm going to show you the content of my, I do this when I play my intro videos on Blab, so that I can fill the screen with the image that I have here. Let's say I have this image over in the corner. I can pre-screen this over as a full screen image. Now right now I'm broadcasting. You can see how this changed down here at the bottom. My desktop capture changed. My output is now being broadcast on a full screen way over here on monitor 2. That's what this desktop capture is. So if I were to put this over there, now I'm putting my desktop capture, which is right here, the desktop capture. It's showing a full screen image of that file. And that's all that's going to be in the window. I have to turn the overlay off to get rid of my lower third. So that would be the introduction to, let's say, my broadcast. That's where it's going to sit until I'm ready to broadcast. Then we can do another input. Let's do one more here. Let's add a video. Okay. This is how I do my Nothing Show introduction. So I have the Nothing Show intro, which I could browse to and go find any video that I'd like. And I'll add that as another layer. It's not another layer. This is just another aspect to the program that I can add in as a feature. So let's do this. This is where it gets crazy. I'm going to throw in the Nothing Show intro into this box. Now you can't see me, but you can see me down here in these preview windows, which are for my Cam 1 and Cam 2. I have my image and I have my desktop. Now it's a little confusing between the two. What you have to remember is the green bar shows what's live up here in the secondary screen. Yellow is always preview. That's all you're getting is the preview. So the way I would start my show is very simple. I would have my please stand by graphic ready to go. But this is not, I'm not broadcasting yet. I'm just sitting in vMix. So how do I broadcast? Well, let me show you. I'm going to pull up something real quick. I'm going to go ahead and open up this. You're going to get this in the recording. I'm in my browser right now. I'm going to head over to FireTalk so you understand exactly what's going on. Okay. And you'll be able to see how I do this. All right. Now, while I'm on FireTalk, I'm going to log into my account. Doesn't matter which one for now. I'm just going to log into my personal account so I can authorize Twitter to use FireTalk. Going to head over here. I'm now inside FireTalk, and I can go ahead to my channel. And on my channel, it's playing. It's going to play some stuff, so I'm going to mute the tab. I have a preset pre-list of recordings that are going on 24/7 over on my channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go live with this feed. Now, because I'm set up a little bit differently, it's going to try to grab my camera capture. So I'm going to have to do something a little out of the ordinary. So I'm going to come back here for just a second. I haven't turned on my external camera yet. Now, the thing that's nice about vMix is you don't have to turn it on before you go into a live stream on WebRTC. However, with software like Wirecast, it gets a little complicated with who controls the camera. I haven't seen that issue over at FireTalk yet, so let's head over to FireTalk again. I'm going to go live. Okay. Now, just like any other WebRTC platform, it's going to attempt to connect to my camera by direct access to the cam itself. Now, as you can see here, vMix has taken control of the camera, so I can't get to it from there. So what happens is you'll get an error publishing, and the camera will not be accessible. So what I need to do is change it over to a vMix video. That's the virtual camera that vMix creates to get you through a WebRTC platform. So I can say done and then refresh the screen. This will allow FireTalk to realize that I don't want to use my Logitech camera, but that I want to go live with my vMix camera. So now if I try to go live, what it should do is initiate an episode with the camera settings. At least it should. We're going to see what happens here. See what it does. Okay, now it wants to start a broadcast. So this is going to be a vMix test. I'm not going to share this out to Twitter or Facebook at this time. And obviously with FireTalk, it provides a permanent location for you to broadcast from. But for now, I'm just going to go live. So what you see now are the color bars that are coming up from vMix, because vMix is a broadcasting software. But what I haven't done is turned on the camera for vMix to broadcast. So if I go back to vMix, I have an external camera and I have a streaming camera. These are two different things. I'm either streaming via RTMP or real-time media protocol out to an RTMP server, or I'm using it as a virtual camera via WebRTC through a browser. So I'm going to turn on my external camera. Now what this does is you'll see the external lights up over here above the output screen. And if we go back to FireTalk, you'll see that now I'm broadcasting. Now this looks in reverse, but the people who are watching it are going to see it in the right direction. Now the people on FireTalk can actually hear me, so hello to all those people out there on FireTalk. This is just a test. I am demonstrating the use of vMax as a third-party application on FireTalk so that you can broadcast and share your screen and provide content on a much more valuable basis than just doing a live stream camera broadcast. So back to vMix. This is where we're at. Now if I wanted to, let's reduce this in size a little bit so you can see what I want to do. This is, I'm going to lower down all the cameras that are set, but I want you to be able to see in the back end of FireTalk how I'm going to start my show and do my introduction. Now in the process, I'm going to go ahead and start the playback because I have a little bit of fuzz at the beginning, a little bit of slop room or playroom that gives me the opportunity to make the movie start and then send it over to where I want it to be. The only thing is there's one thing I have to do first. And let me make sure I have it set. I have to make sure that my mixer is allowing for the feed for my computer sounds. And you can do this in vMix. I have to fix mine because I messed it up with the audio mixer. We'll talk about that later. But as far as the output audio goes, it should be generalized. It should go straight from vMix into the sound system that's ready as a default for Windows. We'll set that up later. So I should be able to simply start my video and bring it over. Fade it over. I should be able to hear the sound. Verify that this set of bars right here. So I'm now broadcasting that's done broadcasting, now I'm ready to go live. So I can turn off my mixer's output to FireTalk. I can turn on my camera, turn on my lower thirds over there, and merge over into the screen. And now you will see on FireTalk, there I am. Now again, my lower thirds are backwards, but the people on FireTalk will see them in the proper direction. Me, I can't. I see it just fine here. It looks funny to me here, but if I were a user coming into FireTalk, the screen will look in the other direction. It'll be mirrored. You can see the opposite view, okay? You can see where my hand is. See how it's the opposite side? It's something we have to contend with all the time with video production. We have to get used to which side of the screen we're on, whether we're mirrored or not. So that's just a run through. Now, from here, what can we do on FireTalk? Well, we can do a desktop capture. We can share our screen. Now, keep in mind, this is more of an overlay because I'm in full screen mode up here. Okay, so let me turn off full screen mode. That gets rid of my secondary screen showing what's being output. And now if I switch this over, I'm going to want to lose the lower thirds before I make the transition. And then I can merge my desktop over. And what you'll see on FireTalk is just the desktop broadcast. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. So if I wanted to start, let's say, I'm going to go over here. I have a demo. I have a slideshow presentation that I'm going to do later in this week. But the thing with OpenOffice is that it takes up both screens at the same time, because it has one as a control screen and one as an output screen. So what I'm actually going to do when I fire this slideshow up is I'm going to lose my visuals for my vMix software and FireTalk, and all I'm going to see is my slideshow presentation. But you guys will be able to follow along. So I've set it up so that it's going to show up, like I said, on display 2. That's the display I'm broadcasting out live to FireTalk. All of you out there can see this slideshow presentation. So when I go to start the slideshow, I'm going to lose you guys on this end. You'll see what happens in the recording. Okay, now in the recording you can see the control panel, but you cannot see the rest of the screen. Now you can't see the entire control panel, and I'm sorry for that. It was because I didn't size my recording properly. I didn't want the lower part of the Windows taskbar to show up, but some of my control bar actually shows the time allotted for this particular. Down below here where my mouse is, you would see the timer ticking. Now this is basically all that FireTalk has seen, and I should be able to include part of the FireTalk demonstration video within this presentation so that you guys can see what they're actually seeing out there. And here I can click through the screens to go to the next slide, and I can present my slideshow. Okay, and this isn't the one I'm going to do later. This is actually a demo that I did the other day. So I can simply click on these frames, and now on FireTalk, even though my face isn't showing, they are watching the slideshow, and I can talk about the slides and go through it, similar to a webinar. Okay, and then I can go ahead and back out of here if I want, and now I can switch screens, and I just clicked on that to switch over. I can do that also. If I want to click between frames, I can simply pick on the preview window, and it'll put it into the output window. So let's head over back to FireTalk. There we are. I'm back on FireTalk. I'm sorry I can't show you by dragging this down what it looked like on FireTalk, but I will include the video from FireTalk that will show you what took place when I was in vMix and when I switched into the Impress software to do the slideshow presentation, how it came out on FireTalk. And now I've left FireTalk, I've done my video production, I've done my screen share. I could close out my video from the other end, and then I could also add another input, which is another video, which is my power down. I can throw this in here, and they start to stack. Okay, so once you get past the first 5, they start to come in down here. Okay, so you don't see this video, you don't see this video. Now this video is obviously ready to go. It's a very short video. It's only 9 seconds, but it's basically everything that I had to give you today. Now I can turn off my external camera because I'm no longer outputting to a WebRTC platform through a browser, which is the fact that I'm recording through Corel screen capture. So that's one of the reasons that I don't need this on any longer. Now that we've established the fact that we have cameras 1, cameras 2, and let's just pick on those real quick so you see where I'm at. Camera 1, camera 2, my image, my lower third, my desktop capture from desktop 2. Now I could add another one for desktop 1 if I wanted. The video for the intro, the video for the outro. Now with all of this stuff in here, what we want to do is make sure that we come over here and that we save this as one of our broadcast features. So in this case, I'm going to make this my default, and all I got to do is save that, and this will replace the one that I already have, which the default would normally be. Actually, no, I'm not going to replace that one. I'm going to make a new one. So I'm going to make this Fire Talk. So now I have a setup specifically for doing a Fire Talk broadcast. I'll save that. Now next time, let's say I go over here and I want to create a new one. Let's say okay. It's going to start off fresh like we did when we first came out here. All I need to do is go up to the Open tab, and I can find the Fire Talk vMix file, load that preset, and you'll find all the cameras get set up, all the images preload. The lower thirds there are display for our desktop capture, and our videos are already ready to go. So all we need to do is get broadcasting by hitting the external camera, firing that up, and then going out to whatever WebRTC platform we want to do. Make sure that in our camera icon on the URL bar it's set for the vMix output, and then we just go ahead and jump into a room and we're good to go. So that's it. So really all I need to do is finish this broadcast. This is Leland Best at BCBLive. I hope this has been a good introduction to the vMix software as a third-party application to broadcast out on a WebRTC platform. I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. We'll see you in the next video, everybody. Take care. This has been Leland Best. We're out of here.